The cacophony of a bustling American train station, usually a symphony of hurried footsteps and distant announcements, was abruptly shattered by an unexpected disturbance. A police dog, a magnificent German shepherd with sharp, intelligent eyes and an air of focused intensity, inexplicably braced itself directly in front of a small boy. This wasn't a casual block or a playful nudge. The dog stood firm, a living barrier, its body language radiating an unshakable resolve that brought the surrounding commotion to an immediate, jarring halt. Panic, a cold, unwelcome guest, began to ripple through the crowd as passengers, initially confused, quickly grasped the unusual nature of the scene unfolding before their eyes. Whispers escalated into murmurs, and then into outright worried exclamations, while the boy, seemingly trapped, offered no resistance, only a strange, unsettling stillness. This was Leo. At just 8 years old, he possessed an almost ethereal quietness, a trait that often made him blend seamlessly into the background, easily overlooked amidst the vibrant chaos of daily life. Today, however, he was undeniably the center of attention, though clearly not by choice. His small frame, dwarfed by the massive police dog, seemed to shrink further under the sudden scrutiny. Leo was traveling alone, a common occurrence for him lately, a stark indicator of a childhood far removed from the carefree innocence typically associated with his age. His clothes, though clean, bore the subtle wear of frequent use and careful mending, hinting at recent hardships that had etched faint lines of worry onto his young face. A certain world weariness, usually reserved for adults, clung to him like a shadow, a testament to a difficult home life that had forced him to mature far too quickly. His eyes, a shade of deep, unreadable brown, held a depth of sadness that belied his tender years, often darting anxiously, as if constantly searching for a threat or an escape. He clutched an old, slightly worn backpack to his chest, a lifeline perhaps, or a shield against an unpredictable world. The dog's abrupt intervention had created an undeniable spectacle, a focal point of intense curiosity and growing alarm. Passengers, previously engrossed in their own journeys, now stood frozen, their gazes fixed on the boy and the unwavering canine. An arriving police officer, drawn by the sudden hush and the conspicuous blockade, quickly made his way through the gathering crowd. His brow furrowed in confusion. He tried to assess the situation, his trained instincts immediately recognizing the dog's unusual posture. This wasn't standard procedure. The dog wasn't actively apprehending someone, nor was it responding to an obvious threat. It was simply blocking. The boy, Leo, remained motionless, his small hands gripping the straps of his backpack with surprising ferocity. The air crackled with a tension that none could fully understand, but all could certainly feel. The officer's presence, instead of instantly resolving the situation, only served to heighten the dramatic intensity, transforming a strange incident into a public crisis. What could this dog possibly be so intent on preventing? What secret was Leo carrying, and why was this animal so determined to keep him from his destination? If you want to uncover the astonishing truth behind Leo's mysterious journey and the police dog's extraordinary actions, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. You won't believe what happens next. The police officer, a seasoned veteran named Officer Miller, finally reached the scene, his brow furrowed with a mixture of confusion and mild annoyance. He had responded to countless calls involving disruptive passengers, but never one where the instigator was a K9 unit, blocking a small, frightened boy. The dog, a powerful German shepherd named Jax, stood firm, its body a defiant barrier, effectively pinning Leo against a newspaper stand. Officer Miller tried to project an air of calm, raising a hand in a placating gesture towards the growing crowd. "All right, folks, let's keep moving," he announced, his voice firm but not harsh. "Everything's under control." But everything was decidedly not under control. Jax, usually impeccably disciplined, ignored Officer Miller's unspoken command to de-escalate. Its intense gaze was fixed solely on Leo, its tail held low, a subtle vibration in its stance indicating unwavering resolve. Leo, meanwhile, was a picture of silent terror, his small frame rigid, his knuckles white as he clutched the worn straps of his backpack. He looked like a cornered animal, wide-eyed and breathless, trying to disappear into himself. The boy's distress was palpable, a silent scream that resonated even amidst the station's bustling cacophony. Suddenly, a booming voice cut through the air. "All aboard. Last call for the northbound express to Albany. Doors closing in 5 minutes." The conductor, a portly man with a pocket watch, appeared at the platform's edge, gesturing impatiently. A wave of anxiety rippled through the delayed passengers. Officer Miller felt the pressure immediately. His primary directive in such a situation was crowd control and ensuring the smooth flow of transit. A K-9 unit blocking a child from boarding a departing train was an unprecedented complication. His gaze flickered between the resolute dog, the terrified boy, and the increasingly agitated conductor. This was a dilemma. Trust the inexplicable instinct of an animal or adhere to the rigid schedule of the railway system. He knew Jax. The dog was not prone to arbitrary acts. There had to be a reason, even if Miller couldn't fathom it. Gently, he approached Leo, his voice lowering to a soothing tone, trying to penetrate the boy's shell of fear. "Hey there, son. What's going on? Why won't you let the nice doggy move?" He knelt, trying to make eye contact, but Leo's gaze remained glued to Jax, then briefly darted to his backpack, which he held tighter still. It was a bulky dark blue bag, looking almost too heavy for his small shoulders. "Do you have a ticket for the train, Leo?" Officer Miller tried another angle, hoping to find a conversational foothold. The boy just shook his head almost imperceptibly, his lips pressed into a thin line. He was a small fortress of silence. Officer Miller reached out a hand, intending to gently touch Leo's arm, but the boy flinched violently, shrinking further. It was clear that any attempt to directly intervene might only worsen his distress. The dog, however, remained a static, unwavering sentinel, its attention never wavering from the boy, specifically from the backpack clutched so tightly to his chest. The situation was escalating, the ticking clock of the train's departure amplifying the tension. Officer Miller knew he had to figure this out, and quickly, before the situation spiraled completely out of his control. The low murmur of the growing crowd began to transform into a restless buzz, a symphony of frustrations and anxieties. Some voices rose in genuine concern for the small, silent boy, while others grumbled about the delay, their train schedules seemingly more important than the unfolding drama. Officer Miller felt the pressure mounting, a palpable tension coiling in the air. The K-9, however, remained oblivious to human impatience, its focus unwavering, its posture stiff and alert. A deep, guttural growl escaped its throat, a sound far more menacing than its earlier barks. The growl wasn't directed at the crowd or the officer. It was aimed squarely at Leo's backpack, a silent, primal warning. The dog's intensity suggested a matter far more serious than a simple case of a child obstructing a pathway. Just then, a gentle hand touched Officer Miller's arm. He turned to find an elderly woman, her face etched with a lifetime of experience, her eyes filled with a familiar kindness. "Officer," she began, her voice soft but firm. "I recognize that boy. His name is Leo. He often travels alone, always with that backpack." Her gaze shifted to Leo, a hint of sorrow in her eyes. "He seems troubled. I've seen him on this route many times. He's always so quiet, too quiet for a boy his age." This small piece of information, seemingly insignificant, sent a shiver down Officer Miller's spine. A child traveling alone frequently, appearing troubled, and now a police dog reacting so intensely to his backpack. The pieces were beginning to connect, forming a disquieting picture. The dog's behavior intensified further, moving beyond growls. It began to paw frantically at the worn fabric of Leo's backpack, its nose pressed firmly against the material, sniffing deeply. A soft whimpering sound, almost like a plea, escaped its muzzle. This wasn't just detection. It was an urgent communication. The animal was agitated, almost frantic, clearly indicating it sensed something genuinely hazardous or unusual. This wasn't the trained response to a simple delay or a lost item. This was a response reserved for a significant, immediate threat. Officer Miller's casual interest evaporated, replaced by a cold dread. The dog's unwavering focus and escalating distress could only mean one thing. There was something dangerous inside that backpack. He looked at Leo, whose small frame trembled visibly, clutching the backpack as if it were a life raft in a turbulent sea. The boy's eyes, wide and terrified, darted between the K9, the officer, and the increasingly agitated crowd. He seemed to shrink further into himself, his grip on the backpack tightening with desperate resolve. The sight of the child's profound fear, combined with the dog's unequivocal signals, dispelled any lingering doubts Officer Miller might have had. This was no longer just about a missed train or a minor disturbance. This was about something potentially catastrophic, something that a well-trained police dog was risking its own safety to prevent. The elderly woman's words echoed in his mind. "He seems troubled." And now, the dog was screaming that trouble was not just emotional, but physical, tangible, and potentially explosive. The weight of the situation settled heavily on Officer Miller's shoulders. He knew, with chilling certainty, that he had to act, and quickly. The safety of everyone in that bustling station might very well depend on what was hidden within Leo's innocent-looking backpack. The atmosphere, once merely tense, now thrummed with unspoken danger. The unmistakable conviction in the police dog's actions, coupled with the elderly woman's troubling observations, solidified Officer Miller's resolve. He pulled out his radio, his voice strained but clear as he requested immediate backup, and, specifically, a K9 handler trained in detecting hazardous materials. The urgency in his tone was stark, cutting through the general chatter of the station. He then turned his attention back to Leo, trying to maintain a calm exterior despite the growing knot of apprehension in his stomach. He knelt, attempting to bring himself to the boy's eye level. "Leo," he said softly, his voice a gentle coaxing. "I need you to let go of your backpack for a moment. It's okay, we just need to check something." But Leo's response was immediate and visceral. His small hands, surprisingly strong, gripped the straps of the backpack even tighter. His entire body stiffened, a silent refusal echoing his fear. As Officer Miller tried to gently pry his fingers away, Leo's distress escalated from silent trembling to quiet, heartbreaking sobs. Tears welled in his wide, terrified eyes, tracing clean paths down his dust-smeared cheeks. He wasn't crying out of anger, but from a profound, deep-seated fear, rooted in the possibility of losing what he clutched so desperately. He buried his face against the backpack, his small frame shaking with each shuddering breath. It wasn't just an object, it was his entire world, his safety net, his most precious possession, or so it seemed to him in that moment of intense vulnerability. The thought of someone taking it away was clearly unbearable. The crowd, which had initially been a mix of curious onlookers and frustrated travelers, now watched in hushed concern. The sight of a small child weeping, clinging to his backpack while a police officer tried to intervene, was a powerful image. Whispers spread through the station, changing from annoyance about delays to worried speculation about the boy's situation. Officer Miller knew he had to proceed with extreme caution, balancing the need to ensure public safety with the delicate task of handling a terrified child. He couldn't force the backpack from Leo without potentially causing further trauma, but the dog's insistent signals left no room for hesitation. Just as the tension threatened to snap, a new figure pushed through the onlookers. It was Officer Davies, the K9 handler, his face grim as he surveyed the scene. His own trained police dog, a German shepherd named Kaiser, quietly at his side. Davies nodded curtly to Miller, his eyes immediately assessing the agitated state of the 1st K9 unit and Leo's desperate hold on his backpack. He knelt beside Officer Miller, his voice calm and authoritative as he spoke directly to the 1st police dog, establishing immediate control. Then, turning to Officer Miller, he confirmed the gravity of the situation. "This isn't just a simple alert, Miller. He's in a full-blown, deep search command on that backpack. His body language, the vocalizations, the sustained focus. This dog is telling us, unequivocally, that there's something dangerous in there, something he's specifically trained to detect, and he won't back down until it's addressed." Davies explained further, his words cutting through the emotional haze surrounding Leo's tears. "Our K9s aren't just trained for drugs or explosives. They're also trained for specific types of devices, unusual chemical compositions, things that could be used to cause harm." His unwavering focus, the way he's practically trying to tear into that bag, it signifies a genuine threat, not a false positive. He's indicating a precise target, not just a lingering scent. The K9 handler's words were a stark validation of Officer Miller's chilling premonition. The dog's persistent, almost desperate actions were not random. They were a precise, urgent message. The innocent-looking backpack, clutched so tightly by the grieving child, was now definitively identified as the source of a serious, credible threat to the safety of everyone in the busy train station. There was no longer any doubt. With the arrival of the K9 handler, a sense of grim authority settled over the chaotic scene. Officer Miller, his jaw set, exchanged a significant glance with the handler, a silent acknowledgement of the gravity of the situation. The handler, a seasoned veteran with a calm demeanor, immediately understood the urgency conveyed by the dog's relentless behavior. There was no time for further debate or hesitation. It was a difficult decision, one that went against every instinct to protect a frightened child, but the potential danger outweighed any immediate discomfort. Officer Miller gently but firmly communicated his intention to search Leo's backpack. Leo's eyes, already wide with fear, suddenly filled with an almost primal terror. A choked sob escaped his throat, and he thrashed weakly, trying to pull away from Officer Miller's grasp. His small hands clung to the worn fabric of the backpack with a desperate ferocity, as if it were an extension of his very being. The K9 handler, understanding the child's distress, moved with practiced ease to gently restrain Leo, ensuring his safety without causing him further harm. It was a heartbreaking moment, watching the boy's world crumble around him, yet the officers knew they had no other choice. The dog's unwavering focus, Its low, guttural whimpers affirmed their course of action. The backpack had to be opened. Carefully, meticulously, the K9 handler began the search, with Officer Miller standing by, observing every move. The initial layers revealed exactly what one might expect from an 8-year-old boy. A well-loved, slightly grubby teddy bear, its faux fur matted from countless cuddles. A half-eaten peanut butter and jelly sandwich, still wrapped in wax paper. A crumpled drawing of a superhero that had seen better days. There were a few well-worn comic books, their pages dog-eared from repeated readings, and a small, brightly colored toy car. For a fleeting moment, a flicker of doubt crossed Officer Miller's mind. Could the dog have been wrong? Was this simply a misunderstanding, a traumatized child with an overprotective canine? The handler, however, remained impassive, his gaze fixed on the contents, his fingers probing deeper into the backpack's compartments. The dog, meanwhile, had not wavered. Its nose remained pressed against the backpack, its body rigid with an almost painful intensity, its low growl a constant, unwavering hum. It wasn't interested in the teddy bear or the sandwich. Its attention was fixed on something else entirely. The K9 handler noticed a subtle unevenness in the backpack's structure, a slight rigidity where there shouldn't be any. He ran his hand along the bottom, feeling for anomalies. Beneath the lining, a carefully concealed false bottom was discovered. It wasn't obvious, designed to blend seamlessly with the backpack's original construction, but to a trained eye and probing fingers, it was undeniably there. A collective intake of breath could be heard from the small cluster of onlookers who had gathered, their initial curiosity now replaced by a chilling realization. This wasn't an innocent oversight. This was a deliberate concealment. Slowly, carefully, the handler began to pry open the false bottom. Leo, seeing the impending discovery, let out a small, desperate cry, his struggles intensifying despite the gentle hold of the officer. His fear was palpable, a stark contrast to the quiet desperation he had shown earlier. It was as if he knew instinctively that the true contents of his backpack were about to be revealed, and with them, a secret far too heavy for a child his age to bear. The dog's earlier precise indications were now incontrovertibly validated. Its extraordinary senses had not played tricks. What lay hidden beneath the mundane items of a child's world was about to shatter the calm of the train station and expose a far more sinister plot. The discovery of the hidden compartment confirmed their worst fears, confirming that the dog's persistent warning was not a false alarm, but an urgent, life-saving signal. The immediate decision was made to examine the backpack, an action met with renewed, desperate resistance from young Leo. His small hands, surprisingly strong, clung to the straps, his face buried against the worn fabric as if seeking refuge. Officer Miller, with a K9 handler by his side, providing invaluable reassurance and control over the agitated dog, finally managed to gently pry the backpack from Leo's grasp. The boy's whimpers turned into soft, broken sobs, his entire body shaking with an unidentifiable fear that transcended the simple act of losing his possession. It wasn't the fear of being caught, but something deeper, more insidious. The K9 handler, a seasoned veteran named Sarah, carefully unzipped the main compartment. The initial layers revealed exactly what Officer Miller had anticipated: the mundane, comforting detritus of childhood. There was a well-loved, slightly discolored teddy bear, its single-button eye staring blankly upwards. Beside it lay a crumpled, half-eaten sandwich, undoubtedly meant for a journey that had now been dramatically interrupted. A small, dog-eared comic book peeked out from beneath a spare, neatly folded t-shirt. For a fleeting moment, a wave of doubt washed over Officer Miller. Had they misjudged? Was the dog simply reacting to the boy's distress, or perhaps the lingering scent of food? But the canine, now quieted by Sarah's calm presence, remained fixed on the backpack, its nose still twitching, its eyes never leaving the interior. Sarah, understanding the dog's unwavering focus, began to probe deeper. Her experienced fingers quickly located a subtle abnormality beneath the lining, a slight stiffness where there should have been none. With a practiced movement, she peeled back a section of the false bottom, revealing a carefully concealed cavity. Inside, nestled within the hidden compartment, was not the expected bag of drugs or a firearm, which would have been terrible but comprehensible. Instead, the object revealed was far more disturbing in its subtlety and implication. It was a crude, yet undeniably functional device. Wires, insulated and neatly bundled, connected to a small, unassuming timer, and then to a series of carefully packed components that hummed with a low, almost imperceptible energy. It wasn't an explosive in the conventional sense, lacking the bulk of high-grade materials, but it was clearly designed to cause significant disruption, a controlled chaos meant to spread panic and confusion, especially within a crowded public space like a train station. The blood drained from Officer Miller's face. This wasn't a toy, nor was it a harmless prank. This was sophisticated enough to be menacing, a homemade instrument of fear. Leo, seeing the device uncovered, finally broke his silence. His voice, small and trembling, was barely a whisper. "He said it was important," Leo stammered, his eyes wide and filled with tears. "He said I just had to carry it, not look inside. He said if I did, he'd give me money, enough to buy food for weeks, and a warm place to sleep." His words painted a chilling picture. Leo recounted meeting an older man, seemingly friendly and reassuring, who had approached him near the station's entrance. The man had offered kindness, food, and the promise of a better life, preying on Leo's obvious vulnerability and desperation. He had specifically instructed Leo to board a particular train, to leave the backpack in a specific location, and then to exit quickly. The manipulation was clear, sinister, and deeply unsettling. The device itself, coupled with Leo's heartbreaking testimony, immediately amplified the situation beyond a simple K9 detection. This wasn't merely about a misguided child or a random act of malevolence. The precision of the instructions, the specific design of the device, and the calculated manipulation of a vulnerable boy all pointed to a far larger, more organized, malicious intent. This was the work of individuals, or a group operating with a chilling level of planning, exploiting the unseen struggles of the city's most defenseless. A wider network, unseen and insidious, was clearly at play, using an innocent child as an unwitting pawn in a scheme that could have had devastating consequences. The police dog had not just detected a threat. It had uncovered the tip of a much larger, darker conspiracy lurking beneath the surface of everyday life in the bustling metropolis. The immediate threat had been neutralized, the crude device secured, yet the air in the station office crackled with a tension far thicker than before. Officer Miller, still reeling from the gravity of what had nearly transpired, felt a profound and almost overwhelming sense of relief wash over him. It was a cold, stark realization of the potential catastrophe that had been averted, not by human intelligence alone, but by the unwavering instinct of a police dog. Every passing train, every bustling passenger, now seemed to carry a ghost of what could have been. The magnitude of the K9's intervention, seemingly just a nuisance moments earlier, now resonated as nothing short of miraculous. His initial adrenaline rush gradually subsided, leaving behind a heavy weight of urgency. This was no longer just a local police matter. It had escalated into something far more significant. He immediately placed calls, relaying the details with a precision born of shock and focus. Within the hour, the quiet makeshift command center they had established around Leo and the backpack was inundated. Black SUVs, unmarked but unmistakably official, screeched to a halt outside the station. A phalanx of federal agents, their faces grim and their movements efficient, descended upon the scene. They wore the hardened expressions of individuals accustomed to dealing with threats of national security, and their presence instantly shifted the atmosphere from local concern to federal operation. These agents, clad in plain clothes, moved with a quiet authority, their eyes scanning every detail, absorbing the scene with practiced ease. They wasted no time, immediately taking control of the investigation into the device itself, meticulously documenting its components, its unique design, and its potential reach. Leo's backpack, now a crucial piece of evidence, was carefully bagged and whisked away for forensic analysis. The focus quickly turned to the manipulation of Leo, understanding the methods and motives of the individual who had used an innocent child as a courier for such a dangerous payload. The agents recognized the profound significance of the police dog's actions, understanding that without its intervention, they might have been responding to a very different, far more tragic situation. The K9 handler, standing proudly beside his heroic dog, provided his own detailed account, emphasizing the dog's precise, almost prescient, detection. Amidst the whirlwind of federal activity, Leo's fate hung delicately in the balance. Though initially a figure of suspicion, subjected to the intense scrutiny of law enforcement, he was now unequivocally seen as a victim. His small, trembling frame, his tear-streaked face, and his heartbreaking testimony had painted a vivid picture of a child exploited, a pawn in a game far beyond his comprehension. The elderly woman, who had earlier offered her small but crucial observations to Officer Miller, was brought in to provide her account. Her gentle words, describing Leo's frequent lonely travels and his perpetually troubled demeanor, only served to reinforce the narrative of his extreme vulnerability. She spoke of seeing him often, always alone, always carrying a sense of burden far too heavy for his young shoulders. Leo was not arrested, nor was he subjected to further interrogation in the harsh sense. Instead, he was taken into protective custody. A social worker, a kind-faced woman with a gentle voice, was immediately dispatched to his side. She spoke to him softly, her words a soothing balm after the storm of fear and confusion. His emotional state was fragile, a tapestry of terror, relief, and profound bewilderment. But beneath it all, a nascent sense of safety began to emerge. The warmth of a blanket, a simple cup of juice, and the quiet reassurances from the social worker slowly started to untangle the knots of fear in his small chest. He was no longer just a boy with a suspicious backpack. He was a child who had unknowingly walked into a nightmare, and then, just as unknowingly, had been pulled back from the precipice by the instincts of a four-legged hero. His journey, however, was far from over. It was merely beginning a new, safer chapter under the watchful eyes of those dedicated to his protection. The immediate danger of the device was now fully averted, and the realization of the potential catastrophe prevented by the police dog, Coda, settled heavily in the air. Officer Miller, his initial shock giving way to a profound sense of relief, felt a chill run down his spine. Coda's unwavering persistence, his silent, insistent warning, had truly saved countless lives. The station, once a scene of hurried departures and mundane arrivals, now pulsed with a different kind of energy, one of quiet gratitude and burgeoning urgency. Within minutes, the station was swarming with federal agents, their presence a stark indicator of the gravity of the uncovered plot. They took immediate control of the device, meticulously documenting every wire and component, a grim testament to its sinister purpose. Leo, though initially a pawn in a larger scheme, was now unequivocally seen as a victim. His fragile emotional state, marked by a mix of fear and relief, was handled with immense care. The testimony of the elderly woman, who had often observed Leo's solitary travels and troubled demeanor, solidified the agent's understanding of his vulnerability, painting a clearer picture of a child desperate for kindness and susceptible to manipulation. They whisked him away into protective custody, not as an arrest, but as an intervention, a lifeline offered to a boy who had unwittingly walked too close to the precipice of a terrifying plot. The subsequent investigation, launched with incredible speed and resources, began to unravel the threads of the conspiracy based significantly on Leo's fragmented but crucial testimony. His descriptions of the man who had given him the backpack, though vague, provided the first concrete leads. CCTV footage from around the station was meticulously reviewed, cross-referenced with Leo's timeline, and within days, a network of individuals with similar radical ideologies began to emerge from the digital shadows. The device itself, crude yet effective, bore fingerprints and material signatures that led back to a known cell operating on the fringes of society, ready to exploit the desperate and disenfranchised for their own destructive aims. Coda, the police dog whose seemingly stubborn behavior had initially caused such a stir, was lauded as a true hero. His keen, unerring senses, finely honed by years of training, had detected the threat where human eyes and conventional security measures might have failed. The story of the guardian dog of the station spread rapidly, a powerful narrative illustrating the invaluable role of K-9 units in modern law enforcement. His act was a poignant reminder that heroism often wears fur and silently protects those who least expect it. Leo's story, though harrowing, eventually offered a glimmer of hope. He received the comprehensive support he desperately needed, finding safety and a chance at a new beginning away from the neglect and desperation that had left him susceptible to manipulation. It became a powerful, poignant reminder not only of the unseen struggles many children face in the undercurrents of bustling cities, but also of the crucial importance of vigilance and the profound impact a single, observant act, whether by a human or an animal, can have. Coda's intuition had not just prevented a tragedy, it had brought a ray of light into a vulnerable boy's life, demonstrating that true protection often comes in unexpected forms, driven by instinct and an unwavering commitment to duty. This incident ultimately underscored the critical role of these extraordinary animal partners, forever changing the perception of what constitutes a hero in the public eye. If this incredible tale of Coda's heroism and Leo's survival resonated with you, please take a moment to share this video with your friends and family. Let's spread the word about the extraordinary capabilities of police dogs and the importance of looking out for the most vulnerable among us. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on Coda's amazing instincts and what this story means to you. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more extraordinary stories of everyday heroes, both human and animal. Be sure to check out our related video about other incredible instances of animal intuition saving lives. You won't believe what these creatures are capable of.